Nothing to lose. There we go. Susie Ford, thank you for being in Empowering TV to talk about We've Got Nothing to Lose. So
To lose.
All right.
Love it.
For those that have not met you yet, do you want to give us just a bit of, introduction to who you are? Because we're going to tell your story today, and it's awesome story. So where do you want to start?
Oh dear. Okay. Well, I've been in the corporate world for a long time in senior management, and feels like 100 years, but I'm not 100 years old yet, but it does feel like that. Through that time, I had a position where I used to work with a lot of staff and train them, and I used to find that there was a lot of people I came across that just didn't have the beliefs in themselves, were jealousies, judgments, all this negative stuff was rolling out and wearing on their body and carrying the energy. And I started tapping away about beliefs and behaviors and all this sort of stuff, not realizing where it was going. Anyway, fast forward, March 2017, I knew I was sick, and I was actually down in Adelaide, Australia, moved here to help my mum with Dad's ailing health with vascular dementia. And through that time, your focus is on parents, helping get them sorted, through the process of death, passing over and so on. I wasn't worried about myself, but I was getting sicker. The next thing, I found myself walking into a life-changing appointment. As I walked into an office, I sat down in a beautiful tub chair that was covered with royal plush velvet. And across the desk was a sarcoma specialist, staring at her screen, looking at my internal organs, staring at something that I knew nothing of, but all I knew was something was really going on. She turned and looked at me quite curtly and said, "Susie, this is serious." Well, I don't take that word on very well, because I always go, well, hang on, I'm not going to get serious about anything unless I know. Let's break it down. Let's have a look at it, left or right, do the thing, without having a reaction on it. But this time I had just over 1 kilo sarcoma protruding from my left buttock cheek and protruding around the frontal organs. There were 3 cyst-like formations in that sarcoma, nestling into the main muscles of my body. So yeah, I was a bit dazed about what was going to take place and where I was heading with this. And it was like, okay, they've been haven't paying rent in there for all this time, because she was saying this is just not happening straight away. This has been going on for years inside your body to get to this point. Then there were 7 specialists around Australia who basically couldn't decide what to do. Go in, radiation, chemo, what do we do with this? We don't even know what we're dealing with. They couldn't, through biopsies, understand what the cyst-like formations were. I know there's bits of it all over the place, but the operation was the next thing. So what seemed like weeks ended up was only days, and I was on the operating theatre. And I'll never forget the I've got to see light to these things because it brings back memories for sure. But I remember lying on the operating theatre, and the woman that did the surgeon, the sarcoma specialist, leaned over and said, "Now, Susie, what's your understanding of today's operation?" as they say. And I said, "You are taking the only Kardashian moment I'm ever going to have away from me." And by then, of course, the longest sleep followed. And I found myself then in critical care for some time in stirrups. Obviously, really thinking in that space how the amazing women in this world give birth to children, because it's certainly not a comfortable space. But I had the most incredible experiences in critical care. And sure, you're wired up and you've got drugs coming in and out. But one of the nights, I heard this almighty scream, and I can't even portray it, or I'm going to deafen your ears. But I realised that there was a woman, that curtain only thing between us. And I thought, it woke me actually, and I thought, why aren't the nurses scurrying to her? I could hear nothing, And the next minute, an incredible sigh. And it just overwhelmed me at that time. And I thought, she's gone. And I immediately thought, who is there at the other end of that phone waiting for that call? I've heard the last breath. And it really catapulted me in that moment. And I couldn't sleep. I was wired to the thought of, you know, I don't know what's going on still with the outcome of my internal system, but I'm not going to be in this place, you know, really elevated my thoughts of where I've got to go. And so it's a dynamic, that one in itself was a dynamic experience. And then a couple of days later, one of the nurses, one of the most amazing people that bathe you when you're stuck up in the air, you know, she put her head around the curtain and said, "We're coming, Susie." And I said, "Oh, great. You know, I won't go for a jog. I'll just be here." At any rate, she walked in, and before she came in, I put my head back, actually, and I had this most incredible vision. And the vision was a gold light with somebody pulling down from my neck right down to the base of my spine. It was a large zip. I can say to you it was this wide, though it was being pulled down the bottom, right down the bottom of my spine, from the top of my neck down. It opened up and out came this incredible light, and white light and golden light. And I knew in that moment it was the anger and the resentment that I had held toward my father for the disrespect that he had shown my mother and us as children, but more so my mum. Because through life after that, you know, I realized that I actually had drawn into my world people along the way. In that moment, I was doing all this thinking that I'd drawn in partners in life, bosses, all that were the same as the familiar father I had. So in rehab, that seemed again like months, and I've moved to another rehab hospital. And then I was back in mum and dad's space. And in front of my eyes, it was like, now with adult eyes, seeing mum and dad playing out their subconscious patterning. They were unconscious about what they were doing. But what was the most incredible experience for me at that time was me going, holy crap, I've actually taken on that from dad, that from mum. Wow, I've been doing that too. And all this sort of stuff. And it was quite, you know, I've been in denial, la la land, as I call it, really not taking on responsibility, but not being aware of it to take the responsibility on. So I certainly was not conscious until that point of what I'd been doing to myself, because I'd done a lot over the years. So from then on, there were other discussions had, and more into the point of learning about how I had actually become a master of imitation. Before my father passed, I had a lot of conversations with him and learning more about his father. And he was telling me everything about him that he could, within limitations for me to hear, I think. But what he despised as a child, how he protected his mother from his father, he became. So it was quite sad to see that the past conditioning had just enveloped him in this life, and seeing the fact that he then died with the most incredible death anxiety for 10 days, it just elevated my passion with the work I'm doing, because I've never ever experienced it, and I don't want to see it in anyone else, to the point where we all carry stuff. It is just generational patterning, DNA, it's science proved. We are just walking out 95% of what we've learned from, you know, third trimester, I believe it's even coming earlier than that, until 7 years of age, and even a little later. Everything's just going in. So none of us are going to get away from it. It's just how much of an impact I believe that it has on people is where I come in. So with my adversity, I just thought, no, this is it. I've got to do what I'm supposed to do. And because I use the words fabulous and gorgeous all the time, it was just a no-brainer for me to call the company Let's Just Be Fabulous, with the tagline and shift hidden beliefs, because I don't want to see people getting to palliative care like Dad did, or getting to later in life saying, I wish I'd said sorry. I'm sorry I was so angry. I'm sorry I stopped myself with those fears, you know, all these negative, detrimental stuff. And, you know, it's a performance and we don't realize we're doing it. So my passion is just wild and I can't do enough of it. I think I was saying earlier that just because of my situation now, not having a Kardashian backside on one side of the body, I'm not doing pole dancing, but certainly doing more work with beautiful souls that are ready to clear what they don't fully understand as yet, but know that they're in a safe, supported space to actually learn and uncover and clear, or at least accept and know how to navigate their way out of things that are hindering what they want and what they aspire to be or do in life.
Thank you for being so vulnerable and talking about the price you chose to pay to be here today and to, I love that the story. And there's that saying about you should only be marketing in life and selling in life what you've experienced the lack of, like the pain of. And I love how your pain and you've turned your pain into your passion. Really. Yeah.
Definitely. I know it was given to me. I actually, pardon me interrupting then, but I know it's been a gift because I would have kept going around on the mouse wheel in the corporate space if this hadn't happened. And I wasn't listening to what was coming through. Susie, stop. Susie, stop. Susie, stop. Well, I'm going to get her. I'm going to get her to stop. And it certainly did. So it has been a blessing because the shifts that people have had already, the changes, the life-changing experiences they've had through the work, and they've done, I've only guided, but to me, that's gold. That's my reward in life. You know, that's definitely, I want that legacy to go with some of these people that are cherishing that change. Yeah.
Wow. So you're working with people one-on-one group? What does it look like?
Yeah, it's because it's such it's very much with source as well. So it is quite exhausting work and energetically when you're taking things on from people or working it through. And one-on-one is definitely happening and 4 to 6 people in a group, but I've kind of pulled back from doing that. I'm really doing, wanting to still do more one-on-one, to be honest. Yeah.
What are your sights set on the next year? What specifically are you feeling?
The next year, just because of my constraints, which are not major, please don't think that they are, but it is, I know that deterioration can happen if you're not caring for oneself, and I don't want to be doing that because mentally I'm too wired to keep firing out. But I know I need to speak not one-to-one, one-to-many, because the amount of incredible joy I've received from seeing people's faces when they understand what they have really been taking on is enormous. And I don't believe I should shelter that from others. So I have been doing some speaking events here in Australia, but I'm going to be sort of flipping it through this year and doing more emphasis on that and having the online education, because I work with people in other states now online, one-on-one as well as face-to-face, but I still want to elevate the speaking to many because it's just going to get that change happening faster than I can do personally.
I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Crazy world we live in, but it's, the old sayings a little bit for me anyway. It's certainly happened for a reason, and I don't use that lightly. Whilst other people can, trauma can come in any form, but most certainly I can't deny that I went through some wild emotional rides at the early stages of this, wondering, you're losing your identity, you just lose everything you had in your mindset. But because of all those experiences, I can now understand, even on a deeper level, you know, rehab that people are on, any addictive behaviours, any sort of change of identity. It's just enormous what it's given me.
Well, you're a new person. You've been born again. It's the next level of emergence.
Yes, it is. Exactly that word, actually. Exactly. Best half.
So how do you look at the brevity of life? This, whether we're here once or multiple times, I know people have polarizing views on that. Regardless, how do you look at this life you have right now? How do you approach it differently now?
Oh, look, that's a good question. The first thing that came to my mind is the anxiety, stress is reduced because of so much in the corporate space of working for owners who wanted more. It was money, this, that. The bigger the better. To the point, I actually knew I was pulling away from that stuff anyway. But it's certainly anxiety. Look, I think very differently. I look at souls now and wonder, wherever I go, I look at them and wonder what they need to shift. I look at them and wonder what has gone on in their life. I can sit there for a bit longer with someone and start to feel it. And it's amazing, a gift to be doing that. So the old life is definitely in a box and shut down. Yeah.
Do you see life as a game, or how do you see life? What do you feel life is? An opportunity, or what is it?
Gift number one. I certainly believe in the fact that we've been and come back to learn and you know, if we haven't learnt enough this time round, or choice. I believe I chose in the last life what has come in this time, and I believe that I haven't finished playing that out as yet, but there's been, I hate to use this word, but I can't think of another, sacrifices in the last 5 years with life for parents. And I believe I put the hand up for that previously, to learn more, to understand more, and then to give that as a gift. So, answer your question, this crazy thing called life, definitely a gift for me, enriching, elevating. You know, I don't want to run out of time to pass on things and learn more to give those gifts as well. So yeah, I can't get enough in. Can't get enough in.
That is a beautiful place to end this. I can't get enough in. I think a lot of people would echo that sentiment. Yeah. Susie Ford, thank you for being here. And I'm going to be tagging you in this interview. Please drop any links, whatever you got, in the comments in the Facebook group after.
Okay,
and
thank you.
Please, yeah, at ENTV, if you've been watching this episode, it's Susie Ford coming to us from down under. And where it's summertime, Adelaide, yeah, you guys are warm, getting hot there. And yeah, so please reach out to Susie. Let her know what you appreciate about this interview. She'd love to connect with you if you're feeling that too. And ENTV exists to connect people. That's one of the primary things we do here, is to connect people with new people, or new ideas, new things to consider, new resources. So thank you, Susie Ford, so much. We'll end the broadcast. Any last words before we end the broadcast?
Thank you, Amos. Just ignite what is not yet all that you can be.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. We'll end it here.
Thank you, Amos.